came to Nigeria at a very prime time. Why do I say that? You saw a Nigeria that worked. Seemingly, it wasn't perfect, but you saw a Nigeria that worked. Today, you've got children, and you're seeing a Nigeria that troubles you. When you compare the past with the present, is there hope for us as a country? Can we go back even to, and I don't want to say go back, can we truly experience what we once experienced in this country? And I mean, let's start from there, and then we'll be able to move on.
Yeah, well, if you're asking if there is hope, there always is hope, because hope is much more than circumstances. Hope is a picture of the future. It's a picture, and you know, we're all allowed to dream. And we can all have great pictures about life. And yes, I came from a time when a lot of things worked. Not everything worked. I lived through times when students were very active, and we held a lot of riots in our time, and things we disagreed with. But to some extent, things worked. Today, we have almost chaos completely in our land. What we never imagined that you had to walk the streets, walking and looking at over your shoulders. The kind of pictures and visuals that we see today of things we couldn't even imagine that human beings could do to one another. We're actually living it every day. Every day. Heinous crimes, murder, rapes, destruction of the type we've never seen before. And we're looking at a nation that does not seem to work spiritually, morally, politically, economically, legally, physically, as in security. Like everything just seems to have collapsed. But we didn't get here by accident. We got here by incremental actions and choices we made.
Wow.
And in the same way, choices we made to get to this place, same also, a reverse of the choices will give us different results. The interesting thing about life is that we decide on the choices we make. And those choices all have consequences or results, if we will put it that way. So when I look at our country, yes, things can change. This could be the best nation even in the world. There were many countries on earth today that were nowhere. Singapore was nowhere.
Yeah,
Malaysia was nowhere. And so many other countries were nowhere. Even China itself, as we see today, was really nowhere in the time of Mao Zedong. And then today you are seeing things, and so many things happen in Germany, in Russia, in China, in Africa, even a place like Rwanda. And then you have, yes, Nigeria. Things can change, but things did not change by magic. Inputs were made and choices were made. So to answer the question, is there hope? Yes, there is hope. Question is, are we willing to pay the price for the dream that we desire?
Wow.
Even God had to pay a price. He is God. But when he desired to take on saving the human race, it cost him, God, something. The Bible says God so loved the world, he gave his only, not many sons. He had just one son. His only begotten son. In fact, it means that he didn't even have a born son. What he had actually from the beginning of the earth was the word. So he had to convert the word into son.
Into flesh.
So the son can die. Wow. He's sacrificing that whoever believes in him will not perish but have life. That's his investment. Is the ultimate in it.
You know, I mean, well, thank God at least there is hope. And we can have hope. You did mention something I want to go back to you. You spoke about choices.
Yes.
And you said that we didn't get here by accident. In other words, we programmed ourselves to be here through the choices that we have made through time. Now, the real question I want to ask is, what choices do you think we're making now? Are we making now to trigger a future that would change the dynamics? Because if we came here through choices, when you look at governance, when you look at us as a people, are we making the right choices as at now? And if we are not, then it means we've got to shift out of this posture and begin to make the right choices.
Yeah, you are talking about making the right choices, and it begins with taking responsibility. You see, whatever happened in the past, as long as we keep on playing the blame game, we never move forward. So you see, the beginning of change, change actually starts with taking responsibility. That whatever happened before, I take responsibility to create a new future. That's where it begins. When we take responsibility and take ownership for the future, that is responsibility for both the past and the present, and we take ownership for the future, then we take decisions and take measures. See, it's one thing to dream, it's one thing to plan, it's one thing to blow grammar like we do in Nigeria. We talk, then we can analyze. But in the end, if we don't take measures, those things do us no good. And measures are taken by people who intend to fix something. And I thought deeply about it, and it occurred to me, who fixed it is more important than who caused it.
Who fixed it?
It's more important.
It's more important
than who caused it. So we go around this roundabout trying to find out who caused the problem, but not about who fixed it. And I see a wonderful example in scriptures when Jesus saw, he had 5,000 people hungry, and he told the disciples, fix it, give them something to eat. It looked crazy, but he was just telling them, fix it. And we have a country that needs fixing. So first of all, have we come to the point of taking responsibility? Because if we don't take responsibility, we will never fix it. We will expect somebody to fix it. In fact, what we are supposed to fix, we are asking God to fix it. So we are bombarding heaven with prayer. God fix our country. He doesn't do nation building. God is not a Nigerian. God is not an indigene of any country. The heavens, even the heavens, belong to the Lord, but the earth
is given to the
sons of men. So
to fix.
Exactly. If we refuse to fix it, nothing happens. And so it begins, like I said, with taking responsibility, and then we decide that we don't want this reality. That means you take a position. That reminds me of the story of Jonathan. They were at a stalemate, surrounded by enemies. The father, who is the king, didn't know what to do. 600 people under a pomegranate tree. They couldn't do anything. This guy decided, this is not the future I want. He took a position. You see, many times things fester because we never take a position.
Wow.
He took a position. I'm the prince. I won't even go to talk to my father. I know what my father will say. So he took, yes. So he took a position first. This is not my reality. See, this country, we need to come to the point where we say, no, this is not our reality. It's not going to be our reality. Like we say, enough is enough. So when you see, the day a man says enough is enough, he does everything, whatever, I like that phrase, whatever is necessary
to break away
and to, and to create. And when you talk about change, actually, you're talking about a deviation. You're talking about a difference from the status quo.
Absolutely.
Always change is about changing or making a different status quo. Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. And if you're just joining us, I'm sure that you're ready, getting into this conversation and getting into the depths of it. I don't want to digress, but I want to touch on something. You worked in Kaduna State.
Yeah.
And you're an architect, and you worked with, the state government, and you had risen clearly to the peak of your career. How old were you then at that time?
Yeah, well, I was chief architect, Kaduna State, when I was 34 years old.
34 years.
Yes, I was chief architect.
Architect.
Yes, any other thing would have been a political appointment. And I gave it my best shot.
Yeah.
I was like 22 when I had my master's degree in architecture.
Oh, wow.
And then I worked, and 11 years with Kaduna State, gave my very best. We did the roundabout, we did the trade fair. so many other things. It was good administering over the capital and also and other projects of maintenance.
The reason I ask this is,
yes.
So now you've got children
yes.
who are inching into that same age frame. And I don't know, where they are right now and their own perception of Nigeria. And that's why when we started, I said, both of us have at least experienced to some degree a Nigeria that seemingly worked.
Yeah.
What's the mindset of your children? I mean, I know that you're an influence on them, and you're one who is transferring the passion for nation building. But there's this terminology today, which is Jakpa, and that basically means escape from the country. Do you see them nursing such thoughts as well? Because this country has over 60% of Nigerians who are youth, and these youth seem not to have a sense of direction.
My children, I brought them up to teach them the values that I believed in. They embraced those values. They clearly see that those values are not the adopted values of a country like Nigeria. They've seen things not working. They see a country in which it seems that crime pays and integrity does not pay. They see a country where 10 plus 10 is like 1.
Yeah.
They see people work and slave. They see corruption as a culture in the life of a nation, different from what their old man has been saying to them. And they look at it, and they've gone to schools away from me where they learned also other values. And they said that this thing you are preaching, we're not sure it's going to work in this country because this country doesn't believe in the values that you have.
Wow.
And I could say to them, so can you understand why the country doesn't work? Because it has embraced values that are not sustainable to development, to what works. They've been to other countries. They've seen how things worked. African countries, European countries.
Yeah.
And these people don't pray like Nigerians. They don't do all night like Nigerians. They don't have churches on every street.
Every street like we have here.
And they found that you don't really have to pray hard to find transport to your next station. Things work. So they asked me, so that's what you mean? I said, yes, because there are things that are responsibility issues and not prayer issues. Other nations took responsibility for their nations, for their lives and what they wanted. And they did the needful. We here, we don't do the needful, but we expect that by some magic, when we pray, we call it miracles. It's not miracles. It's magic. Miracles
God
always
do miracles
exactly
and change the nation.
Exactly. And in fact, when even things that need to be changed by us in a democratic setting, we call God to come and change it. And God doesn't do that. So we wonder why we have prayed for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years, and we are wondering and we're getting confused. Why is God not answering the prayers of Nigerians? Because Nigerians have been very delusional. I'm sorry to say.
Wow.
Very delusional and live in denial. Things in fact, some of us, we will never practice what we say faith is in our businesses. Can you see how we wake up early? We work hard, we do things, and we reap the benefits. But when it comes to the matters of the country or our lives, we kind of say, God, fix it.
You handle that.
Yes, but you see, we have to come to the point of taking responsibility and doing that needful. So my kids now, they understand one thing, that even though some things don't work in Nigeria, they have seen it work outside. Thank God the world is a global village today. So they see how things work. They make applications online for certain things. And they found that they didn't need to see anybody. When they make the applications, it works. In Nigeria, it doesn't work. In Nigeria, you've got to go see the person physically. And you see, it's funny how during the coronavirus protocols, we found that life can go on without people meeting physically. I don't have to see anybody. I don't have to beg the gate man You see, we now started seeing that there is a life possible where by trust and by responsibilities that everyone takes of themselves, you could simply make an application, make a call, and things
will
work.
follow a process.
So today they can see it. But as to this country, they wonder, how can it work? Can we pray it to work? I said, we can pray to engage God, but we cannot pray when it requires us to engage ourselves. And this is where we have missed so much of the point. We live in denial. We live in delusions. We feel God will fix the problem, but there are problems we should fix, whether they are spiritual, whether they are political, whether they are economic, whether they are legal. There are things that whatever we say online, it's not going to change anything until you file a suit in court and challenge the policy the governor or the president made.
You know, sir, this is loaded. I mean, my mind is going in a couple of directions. I thought to take you back to your university days, because you lived at a time when young people began to challenge the status quo in universities.
That's right.
At a time when there were all the riots, and in ABU, Ali must go.
That's right.
And that was young people who were really taking the stand. I mean, well, maybe I'll ask, what was it like then? And, you know, the price of a meal ticket went up, and students literally said, hey, we can't, enough is enough. But when you look at the young people who are of your age, I mean, prior to NSAS, and NSAS, I mean, still had some level of sophistication to it that wasn't during your time. So maybe you take us back a bit. What was it like then? There seemed to be an awareness and a desire for change, and especially confronting the status quo then compared to now.
It was interesting. I remember I was 19 when the Ali Must Go riot took place. We were on the campus. And actually what happened was not just a matter of the meal ticket amount being increased. It was actually the school fees. They wanted to increase the school fees, and the bulk of Nigerian parents could not afford it. So what the students decided to do was to enumerate and list all the increases. To put those increases on posters was going to bring down the government.
Wow.
So because we decided we will take the reason to the man on the street, the grassroots, and tell them, in case you don't know, they wanted to tell the world they are just trying to grumble because of food. But they said, no, you have increased it, and by increasing the school fees, you have made it impossible for the children of the poor, who form the bulk of the country, to go to school. And guess what? We're not just going to stay in the campus to say it. We will write them on posters and paste them on trees.
Wow.
And that was what we were going to do. The Ali Must Go riot, actually, we didn't even riot. We were trying to decide to boycott lectures. We didn't even get to that. And then what we knew, before we knew what was happening, soldiers in full war gear
were brought
onto the campus. They used the School of Aviation planes to do a recce on students who were they are not in demonstration. They were not even demonstrating. They were trying to, first of all, decide to boycott classes. And before you know what was happening, it was a carnage. I watched people shot.
Wow.
I saw things. I missed being dead myself. But we believed what we stood for, that it was unjust and unfair in a country that was experiencing oil boom to make education unaccessible to the generality of the people. And what we did was, if knowledge came to the grassroots, it will bring the government down. And all through, from that time till today, one of the things governments don't want to happen is that the truth be revealed to the man on the street. Because knowledge
Truth is
changes
power.
everything,
Yeah.
because truth is powerful. Jesus said, you will know the truth,
and
and
it
the
will
truth
change everything.
will set you free. Truth changes everything.
Hmm.
And articulating those things was dangerous for any government. And so gradually we saw policies by subsequent governments where they rubbished students. And even if students wanted to do some things, they can create a scenario, for instance, where rotten food and rotten chicken is served you. So you will have to now riot for that. Then they say, you see these boys, you see these guys,
They're not even
they're not
happy
there with this.
Yeah.
So you see, they are spoiled kids.
Hmm.
And gradually they try to reduce and change the credibility until the point where student unionism became practically dead. And then later on, they moved on to the Nigerian Labour Congress,
yes.
rubbished them so that today they could hardly speak, so that there would be no opposition and there will be no auditing of governance in our nation. And if you take that, you will see it will take us right back to the 80s, when we had the previous government, of the present incumbent, where we could see Decree 4 and Decree 24 come on. What was it about? You mustn't say anything that was not in support of the government. You must not speak about dysfunctions of governance.
In 84 then. So
yes. So because of that, you begin to find a conflict between the government and the governed, who want to interrogate the governance, good governance, bad governance. And we've come to the point today where, especially in Africa, all across, the people that rule do not want any audit of their governance.
On the heels of 1984 and that experience,
yes,
the recent suspension or ban on Twitter, did it come to you as a surprise?
Oh, not at all. They've been spoiling to do that since. I mean, the Minister for Information has been trying to do that. They try to they try to come up with the issue of fake news, and it didn't work. So they try to come up with
social media bill and all of that.
Yes, things like that, hate speech and things like that. They try to criminalize expressions of dissent by the people. They want the people to accept everything government does, hook, line, and sinker. They see it as enmity by the government. In fact, they begin to confuse loyalty to the president to loyalty to the nation.
And those are
two different things. So when this issue came up, I was not in the least surprised. Even if Twitter did not remove his tweet, more things will happen to probably provoke it. And so when that happens, you will get to the point where you have no option than to provoke it. And you see it in all of the dissent expressed by young people, by NSAS, by NLC and other things and other platforms. So when you see that, and government took this step to do that, and they didn't shut him down. They actually just removed the tweet that they thought was for a president, was quite inappropriate. And so that happened. So I don't think it's surprising. If anything at all, I think that Nigerians may even expect a whole lot more along those lines.
Along the line. Well, thank you, Pastor Polycarp Agbaja. Yeah. I'm sure that you truly are learning a lot and are just being, I don't know, just having your mind blown apart by the things you're hearing. Right now, we're going to take a slight pause, and you're going to be watching a Vox Pop. I had to go on the streets and went on the streets to speak to people on the streets of Abuja to gauge them and to feel the pulse of the people. So in a little while, and in just a few seconds, you're going to be watching a Vox Pop, and you're going to be hearing people on the streets speak about, their perception of the country as the governed. They will also be speaking about their perception of leadership. So stay with us. We will be back, but you need to watch this Vox Pop.
this country. We are suffering. We are suffering. The problem we are having in this country now is security challenges. The security challenges. Even our farmers, they cannot go to farm. My feeling about Nigeria now is not a good one. We are undergoing a lot of pressure, issue here and there, crisis here and there. To be honest with you, Nigeria is not a good place now. We want to be proud of in all aspects, security-wise. Recently now, even presently now, we are still going through a lot of stress about the fuel increase, fuel change, price, and all that. So we are not experiencing a good time now, not at all.
Kidnapping everywhere, insecurity, banditry, in short, robberies everywhere. So there's, as far as I'm concerned, everywhere is not good. Everywhere in Nigeria now is not security-wise. Everybody's not safe. Let all hands be on deck. Let the security agencies, they should create a strategy to improve the security, our security system, even the economy.
Before now, you can easily travel. You can even board the night bus and travel to wherever you're going to. But now, even travel to Kaduna is an issue. It's a problem. It's a very big problem. Not talk of traveling far to the down east, because you wouldn't know what will happen to you on the road. Anytime I'm traveling, maybe to get some things for my shop, it's like a prayer section. Prayer section, so that there will be a smooth travel. Yeah. You know that. Sometimes if you couldn't reach Lokoja before 4 o'clock, crossing Abaji to Abuja, you'll be scared. It's risky. Very, very risky.
I feel like the government should be proactive. In most cases, they are reactive, and the reactionary measure is not even too good. Most times they react very late, or sometimes they don't do anything about what people complain about. Talk about insecurity now, kidnapping, children problem. I mean, school children being kidnapped and all that. I mean, it has degenerated so low that when you sleep in your house now, you wake up, the following morning just thank your God.
The poor masses are suffering so bad that even when they cries out, it becomes a threat to them. So I would like to speak on behalf of the people that things are not going well. Deep down into their heart, they are aware of it. As we are standing under this sun, not that we are used to it or we embrace it, because that is where we find ourselves. So they need to make an adjustment. Who people that have the God-fearing, that has conscience, they should listen to us, there should be commitments, they should let us know why we vote them in there.
Selection of the leaders, or political office holder, even from the world level, is one of the problems. I like in our case to when you put a hyena in charge of vote, the people we put in place are hyenas. And when you put hyena in charge of vote, and when they eat your vote, are you supposed to complain? Or you put a goat in charge of yam? So our process is a lot faulty. Yes. Let the government listen to the yearning, the cry of people, and address what they are talking about.
The only thing that we are going to do in this Nigeria is to pray. May God help us. There is nothing past praying. The only thing is just may God guide us and help us in this country.
Well, I hope you heard the pulse on the street. I mean, just listening to, the voices of those people, I mean, just tells us that everything isn't right with our country. I mean, this was us going on the streets and asking the average Nigerian. Now, Pastor Baja, one of the things that has become a recurring decimal is a subject of insecurity. And I know that, well, you're an expert when it comes to these matters. You have been involved in trying to resolve some of the challenges in Kaduna State. I know that you're doing a PhD right now, and you're bordering on some of those subjects. Now, this is a government in power, and we know this, that the Boko Haram scenario and situation, the bombings did not start with this administration. We also know that this government in power actually promised Nigerians that once they got into power, one of the priority areas of their administration will be, resolving the security challenge. But it almost appears as if ever since they got in, the situation has worsened, because we were dealing with Boko Haram and bombings at a time. Now we've had the bombings greatly reduced, but we now have kidnapping, banditry, the herdsmen crisis, and what is going on in the southeast today, all kinds of reckless killings. Now, let's look at Kaduna State, and let's look at the Middle Belt. What do you think is the problem there? What do you think is the challenge? So we see what's happening in Niger State today. We see what's happening in Kaduna State itself. We know what's happening in Plateau. We've seen what's happening in Benue State. What do you think is the challenge? What do you think is the problem?
Thank you, Pastor Shola. First, I have to commend you for going to feel the pulse of the people on the streets. And that was such a beautiful, and that was such a thoughtful move that was done to let Nigerians hear other Nigerians. And back to the security issue, I have been involved maybe in the last 8-9 years very intensively on that. I had to ask that question when I come from Kaduna State and Sanga, and in a space of 24 hours, 216 people were massacred. 80% of them women and children. There was no mortuary. 216 bodies were piled up in front of the secretariat in Gwantu. And that was my wake-up call. I couldn't carry on as a pastor preaching from the pulpit when this happened. And I had to take a position that this must never happen again. That whatever was necessary to be done, we will do it. Question was, what happened? 200 people were killed. Why?
Why?
And if anyone knows generally the Middle Belt people, Southern Kaduna people, they are so accommodating to the point of docility. So why did 80% of 200 people who were women and children, they were butchered? I mean, if they were just shot with guns, it was different. It was the gruesome vexatiousness, the viciousness of it, of actually just literally cutting up people. But it didn't stop there. 15 such massacres took place between Kujama and Sanga in 2014. Yes, with an average, an average of 100 people at least being killed in every one. So we had about 1,004 people documented that were massacred in the space of 12 months, just between Kujama and Gwantu. And I had to start asking questions, why? But you started seeing it spreading.
The trend.
Plateau State, Nasarawa State, Benue State, and it was going unabated, unstoppable. And I was wondering why Nigerian government, and the president swore as their primary duty to secure the lives, the property, and the opportunity of Nigerians, this was happening. And generally, everybody would know that, it was a spread. By 2014, of course, about the Chibok girls that were taken, how on earth that could happen. But basically, you ask the question, what happened? Why? And what you will see straight away is a failure of security. In my interface, even with the governor of the state, I said one thing: whatever excuses people try to give, whether it be ethnic or religious or partisan, because this is the only country where people die every election. It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
So, and the people that die in elections are not people from a different state or different tribe. They are cousins and brothers and sisters in the same place who belong to different parties. So they kill each other. Then there is a situation where people from one religion have a disaffection towards people of another religion, and so you see religious riots. Then you have the ethnic aspect as well. So these divisions, for those excuses, people killed. A government is put in place to ensure that nobody kills another person, whether for personal reasons, which ends up in armed robbery, because you say that I don't have money, I want money, so I kill somebody. So whether it is for personal reasons, for ethnic reasons, for religious reasons, or for partisan reasons, a government is in place to make sure that people are not killed for that.
Primary responsibility.
In fact, it's the primary sworn responsibility. And the previous regime failed. The next regime also, of course, has been failing because it has failed to protect the citizens. And what was basically in the Middle Belt metastasized or spread to all other places. Of course, maybe this may not be the place, but different kinds of killings took place. In the Northeast, you had Boko Haram, who stated their reason. It was religious. They were carrying out a jihad. In the Middle Belt, you had the Fulani militia. They're not herdsmen. There are herdsmen, but the people that killed were not, and are killing are not herdsmen.
There's a distinction.
There's a distinction of that. And all the pictures you will see of even those. Have you seen any cattle in the last, I don't know how many months, where they go to a village and kill anybody? There's no cattle involved. People just come in motorbikes with AK-47s and submachine guns and kill people and move. So you have to see a pattern. The pattern is not even about, it's not about cattle. It's not about grass. Because when they even, it wasn't even about banditry. Because when they kill, they don't take money from the people. Kidnapping is a recent thing in the last 2-3 years. But before then, they just came, they invaded, they decimated and occupied territories from Chibok to Kebbi. This is what was happening. So people were unprotected. It wasn't that they were forcing the people to give them money. They didn't carry the crops. No, they just killed the people and just told the people, we don't want to see you in this place anymore. So you look and you see a pattern of invasion, of decimation, and occupation. In the case of Boko Haram, they made it clear, we want to establish an Islamic caliphate. And they were clear about what they did. Now, this continued for years, unabated. The reasons were not hidden. Now, if the reasons are given, the why, what was the role of government and what should it do and what should it have done in security? Since the people came and they are identified. The people that are killing are not unidentified. There are, in most of the cases, they even send advance notice. We are coming to kill you on so date. In 3 days time, we're going to come. So people will go to, I mean, that was a funny one that happened in Zonkwa. They actually passed in front of the police station in Zonkwa to go and do the killings. And so people were wondering, what's in the world is happening here? Where is the government that is supposed to protect and is supposed to own the violence, to protect the people? If anybody kills a Nigerian, they should feel the power of the Nigerians. And I have given this example before. When in 2013 or 14, you know, the Boston bombing took place. You know, in 48 hours, the Americans put out 6,000 members of the guard and the police. And in 48 hours, they fished out these two guys to show that you kill one American, we come after you. But you see, I mean, I can't believe it that 444 kids from Katsina State will be what, abducted? 100 people are being killed in Southern Kaduna in one day. And what in the world are we talking about? It happens every day. This past week, we saw the things that were happening too. The question is, why should this go on? Is that the value of life placed on Nigerians? Then you begin to ask, what happened to our values? So these are the things we are talking about. That now we have a situation, we know what is happening, who is doing it, why they are doing it. Of course, there are rustlings, but you know that
it's not really the issue.
Yeah, the issue is this: for whatever reason anybody comes to kill another person, shouldn't there be a counter force, a government that rules over 200 million people cannot complain of overstretching? How can you talk about overstretching? There are 200 million people to deploy. How can Nigeria, with 200 million people, for instance, have a combined total army of 70,000 people? Navy, Army,
combined total,
and Air Force, 70,000. It's a laugh. It's a joke. How do you protect 200 million people with that kind of stuff? So you see, first of all, we are talking about the basic security architecture that is so faulty. And you ask the question, you have people. We have a president who is a soldier.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't even begin to make sense when you think about the security architecture. You look at the policing of Nigeria. Long before you come into restructuring and state police, we have no business having one policeman to 2,000 people. It doesn't make sense. One soldier to 3,000 Nigerians doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense. Now, this is where we are today, that basically we need to interrogate our leadership. When people have been killed for 10 years and nothing remarkable has been done, that to me is criminal negligence. It's criminal negligence by the rulers of the land, those who call themselves leaders. I don't use that term lightly, so that's why I address them as rulers not leaders. We really don't have leaders in Nigeria today. We have rulers. They struggle to lead, to rule.
Yeah, the Minister of Information actually used that word recently.
Yeah.
And describe themselves as rulers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how they see themselves. They came to rule. They did not come to lead the people. So you have a situation now where a government that its primary sworn duty, function, and mandate is to protect lives, property, and opportunity have repeatedly failed to do so in the past decade. It is criminal. But that is probably for another day.
Yeah.
How that could happen. A country that should own the violence. They're even asking. You know, the biggest joke was when the army chief of staff would say, let us pray. That we need to pray.
We need to pray.
You need to pray. You
And
need
you are
to pray.
leading the army.
And there are conversations. I have to ask myself. I wake up some days and I watch the media and I said, are we really having this conversation? I see the guests invited to speak in channels in AIT, in Arise, and some of those stations. And are we really having this conversation? And then you will see some rulers wake up and say, well, the killings are happening because the people have not learned to live with themselves. That it's a problem between herders and farmers, really.
And like was said today,
yes,
the president in his interview seemed to be blaming the youth, for the insecurity in the country.
You see, when I use the word criminal negligence, I use the word very circumspectly, because we could expand this terminology and go a whole lot more to what is happening right now in the country. So people do such things and you say that, then you know what? You should apologize to Boko Haram. It was a quarrel between Boko Haram and some villages. And so you see, just tell them, send the Ministry of Social Development Let them go and settle the issue with Boko Haram. What in the world are you doing? Opening a school in a war area, in a place that is under invasion. How do we have our children in school? They won't put their children in such schools. Their kids are in Europe and in America and in Asia.
Protected from
exactly.
all of this.
I mean, last week it was crazy watching what happened in Tegina. 3-year-olds. They returned the 3 and 2-year-old children because they couldn't walk. They went away with the 4-year-olds upwards. The kids pay 200 naira per month in Tegina. Most of them can't pay that school fees.
Wow.
Then the people, the so-called bandits, you see all of these terminologies, they begin to become upsetting because you see certain narratives that are projected by government and certain departments to soften the people. They call them bandits. You call terrorists.
Convenient nomenclature.
Very, very convenient nomenclature. And these are people. And the bandits call, you understand? They call to make the ransom. They're using MTN, Glo, Airtel,
and they can be traced.
and 9 Mobile. They cannot be traced in this country. Boko Haram operates in this country in Sambisa Forest with today's technology. The French newspaper that picked up the death of Shekau picked up the conversation of the assistant of Shekau from France. See, if it is radio, it's even easier. Because radios can be that was Second World War technology, where in Germany things will be happening. The English in London will pick up the radio message. So if Boko Haram is using radio, that is even easier. And if they are using any of our service providers, for goodness, what are you talking about? But that is a different story. And there are things we need to interrogate our so-called rulers about, because it is not anything that is rocket science. And like I said, a country of 200 million people, to recruit 2 million soldiers is not a problem. To have 3 million policemen shouldn't be a problem, so that anybody will think twice. You know, I was watching the governor of Lagos today. I liked his bravado when he came out to say that all of you criminals, we are coming after you. Now that is the lingo. Now that is what we want to see every governor say. But not just say it. You know what? He brought in the technology. He brought the vehicles. He brought different things that made sure the firepower and the technology, that objective
would be achieved.
Now, if all 36 state governors
were to do that.
Yeah. You see, we are having failures economically because, number one, you don't even have the atmosphere for business. There's no way business. I mean, our people right now can't go to business. All our villages, they can't go to the farms. And because they can't go to their farms, in the last 6 months, all food items have doubled in prices. And the famine has not even begun. They can't go to their farms. Anyone that goes to their farm is a death sentence.
Asobaja, what can Nigerian citizens do? You see, because this is where rubber meets the road.
Yes.
We've got to be able to do something. You spoke about interrogating the government.
Yes.
We know about what happened with NSAS and how innocent, civilians were fired at.
Yeah.
The government denied, the military denied, the police denied.
Yeah.
But now we're reading reports about corpses. I mean, it's confirmed that 3 corpses came from Lekki. Even if it's 3, they were fired at. And in terms of the definition of a massacre, that still is and fits into that bracket. So the question now is, what do citizens do? We've prayed enough, and prayer is not the solution. So what steps can we begin to take?
First of all, I am the happiest to see what happened with NSAS, because I think I waited 20, 30 years
to see
to
that
see
happen.
to see that happen. Today, I am a lot more at rest because my question was maybe the youth never heard what some of us were saying, that you need to take ownership of your country. When you are fighting a brutal enemy, whether it is a terrorist or a government, like David and Goliath, two things need to happen. You need to come up with a better idea and better technology.
And
This is what
strategy.
yes, well, when I say technology, it means also
Yes, all
strategy.
that.
Yes, you need to come up with a better idea, which is strategy, and better technology. So somebody can look very heavy and powerful and brutal and very gruesome, but you can take care of that person. You could use that person's strength against them, like David did.
David did.
David was a very smart kid. The Bible even said that he ran towards the devil, to Goliath, the giant, and because he was very, very fast with speed, and he was able to apprehend and to deal with the giant. When the Ansars people came, they showed something. They didn't come with the violence that is associated normally with people who are frustrated.
Yeah.
In fact, you could see some of the videos where the Ansars young men took food to the policemen. They bought meat pie and other things,
Yes.
and went and gave it to all of the policemen who were sent to guard them or to check them.
To say, hey, look,
Now-
we guys are with you.
That was a new one because you see, they didn't just change the narrative, they changed the rules of engagement. The federal government said, send your leaders to talk to us. They said, we're not sending leaders. We don't have leaders, but we have issues. These are the issues. Deal with the issues. They said, no. We want them. They said, no. You see, when you invite them, they will sit down to eat. We don't want them to sit down to chop.
Get compromised.
Yes, we are not members of your cabinet and we are not your ministers, but we have identified what the problem of Nigeria is. Fix it. But then you saw what happened. The default of our politicians is thuggery. Here in Abuja, you saw it.
Yeah.
People came with government-looking vehicles. They brought in thugs in the same way politics is practiced in Nigeria.
Exactly.
So you see, when NSAS became a threat, the politicians went into their default mode.
Thuggery.
So they brought in the thugs. And they say, you see, we told you, these young people are violent. See what they have done right now. Everybody knows. And the videos are there, the clips are there to show what happened in Berger Junction and all the places
Absolutely.
in Lagos and so forth. The people that hijacked the NSAS move were not the NSAS people.
That's right.
Who sponsored those people? Clearly, there is a regimen and a culture of politics in the nation that we saw when for the first time they had no answer to deal with the idea and the change in the rules of engagement of the NSAS movement and the people and the young people. It said something. They were shaken to their roots. Now that's to tell you, without arms, without the kind of money and so many things, can you challenge the status quo? Yes. What happened first was that these young people said, they took a position. One, enough is enough. Two, there can be a change. And three, we will be the ones to initiate the change. That's all it takes. You don't have the money. When people rule over a land, they have the whole wealth of the country at their disposal, the instruments of state at their disposal. They have what you call power, which is a holding over a territory. So when you are coming against that, and the bulk of the people are there, you have to look again and say, first of all, we take a position that enough is enough. Number two, it needs to change. Number three, what will it take to change it? What happened? Why are we in this state? What is it about us in our actions or inactions that feeds the dysfunction that is against us? So number one, when people take a position that this Nigeria as we have it is unacceptable and should not go on like this, that's the first step. Number two, what is acceptable? Because what we need is a unity of people. Unity does not come by you begging people. It doesn't come by you crying. It comes by you identifying a common ground. So what is the common ground? What is the Nigeria we dream of? What kind of country do we want? But you see, we have diverse problems. Let's take one, insecurity, like you have been doing this evening. How do we stop it? When Nigerians decide insecurity must stop, we are going to stop it. It must stop, number one. It's not acceptable, and we are going to make sure it stops. Who controls it? What should happen? If the government has the instruments, then the government needs to be motivated or compelled.
What if the people decide to start defending themselves as a measure towards stopping it?
That is one of the measures. That is one of the measures. To defend, it is a right, it's a constitutional right of every Nigerian. Like anything and anyone that threatens your life,
your existence.
you have the right as a citizen to protect not only yourself, but to protect all that are under your care. And whatever you do to protect them when threatened cannot be questioned in law.
That is enshrined in our
That is enshrined in our constitution and even the United Nations global constitution and charter. It is there. So first of all, self-defense is permitted. It is critical, and it is part and parcel of our constitution. Anything that stops that, even from government agencies and government officials, is illegal. That's number one. Number two, government is bound by law and their oath to protect. If they fail to do so, for instance, the executive that's supposed to carry that out, the legislature is supposed to, number one, regulate. It's supposed to regulate. It's supposed to checkmate what happens with the executive, to sanction it, and if possible, to impeach the executive, whether of state or of the nation. Now, if the executive fails, the executive was elected by the people. The people that elected them then ought and can take an action. There is a clause of recalling of elected officials.
Well, again, in a system that works.
In a system that works.
But you see, we have a scenario where you have a legislature that seems to have been bought over by the executive.
Yes.
And it's just basically dancing
to the tune
of the executive.
Yes.
So again, it comes back to the people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and we're looking at it on the heels of NSAS.
Yeah.
Now June 12 is around the corner.
Yeah.
And someone was saying to me, Nigerians and young people have an opportunity to step out again.
Yes.
And to let the government know that, look, we're not satisfied and we're not happy the way that we're being governed.
Yeah.
But you know, there seems to be a fear factor that has been introduced right now.
Yes.
You spoke earlier about sacrifice, and you know, you were using, you know, the template of scripture and how God had to sacrifice his own people.
Yeah.
So young people, what, you know, is still back to, would it be right for them to step out and to march the streets and to ensure that, look, we don't want to cry from inside our homes anymore, but we want to come out and let the government, we're not out to destroy property, but we want the government to know that we are not satisfied with what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, if we go back to the Vox Pop, I had to go on the streets because I didn't want to be delusional and to assume that everything was fine. And I think, again, we have a government that is out of touch with the reality of what's going on to the common man in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So do you see this as an opportunity for young Nigerians to come out and say, with one voice, we're not out to burn. We're not out to maim. We're not out to destroy. But can you hear us? And can the whole world also hear us and be clear about what they're clamoring for?
Yeah. It is very tragic that the government that is supposed to entrench democracy and allow a freedom of speech and expression is completely intolerant of any decent or dissenting view by anyone. This nation has the smartest of people in this world. Whether you are thinking of the humanities or you are thinking of science. We have the best brains in the world. And it is tragic that they only flourish when they leave Nigeria. When they go out of our shores into all other countries, they excel in every one of their fields. This is tragic for our nation. So our kids, our own children, are being killed by the forces that are meant to protect them for telling them and shedding light upon what they are doing wrong. Like they said, we don't want to come sit down and talk with you. We wrote what we know is wrong. They don't want to. And the next thing you see, they try to now find a way to rubbish the kids and the young people and say all manner of things. You see, it's unfortunate. Someone said that when you make peaceful change impossible, you make violent change inevitable. You see, the increase in violence today is a symptom of a government that is not working. You see, the violence is growing not by the NSAS people, but because they refuse to listen to the truth. It has, like a cancer, metastasized, and it's not getting better. If they are reasonable, they will think back and say, we're not doing something wrong. We don't have to sacrifice more NSAS people before a crowd like this. I also believe there are still superior ideas and superior technology to deploy in this. You see, when the NSAS came last year, they came with a move that was never seen.
That's right.
They can't come with the same move. I believe that they have creativeness.
And they need to evolve.
It will evolve. And you know what? It is just a matter of time that truth will win out. It is sad that the government has gone this way to try to discredit any voice of dissent of correction. You are heading for disaster. I say it clearly, unambiguously. I say it confidently. If you refuse good counsel, you will end in disaster.
That's right.
And every ruler in Nigeria that refuses good counsel will end in disaster. It's just a matter of time. There are dynamics you don't control. It may not be NSAS, it may be something else different. But the will of the people, you cannot, a small minority of 0.01 persons cannot enforce their will on 200 million people. Something is going to blow out.
Someday
and sometime and sooner than they imagine. So right now they may be gloating over the fact that we can deal with NSAS. No, there is a whole lot more you can't deal with. And I counsel our rulers, listen to your children. Listen to the elders that are speaking. I'm glad that although he just quoted it, the president said he listened to the elders of the Southern and Middle Belt Forum when they were speaking. And they said, we really don't want Nigeria to split. And he said, he noted that. He said, nobody gave him a report. He watched it happen. Spoken. That's good. And I pray he listens some more and listens to what they are saying. And for a while, every person that is a demagogue, every dictator has always felt that they were invincible. And that was their biggest mistake. And I want to say to our rulers today, you're not invincible. You are not at all. Many have tried it in this country. Today, we don't even mention their names. And you will go the same way if you don't listen to your people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Polycarp. There's a question from one who's watching, and Carol Bong has this question: how can Nigeria balance between having enough security forces and other problems such as high personnel costs and recurrent expenditure? I think that's because you've spoken about the fact that we can recruit 3 million people. So how do we balance that? So having security forces and the high personnel costs and recurrent expenditure.
Let me go back a little bit. 1-2 years ago, additional at the African Development Bank, he said the next level of billionaires are going to be agriculturists. These are the same people being killed today by the terrorists that they decided to give names to and call them bandits or unknown gunmen and kidnappers and so forth. They are known people, they are in known places. If Nigeria does the needful and eliminates these people, then what needs to be done today? I mean, over the weekend, 88 people were counted dead by the police in Kebbi just 3-4 days ago. At the same time, some other things were happening. You see, our farmers can't go to, and Nigeria is basically an agrarian country. The farmers from northeast to northwest, from southeast to southwest can't go to their farms. Do you know the kind of economy we will generate when we optimally begin to produce and allow our people? And my goodness, our own son heads the African Development Bank. He says the money is not the issue. The issue now is for us to create an environment. Nigerians don't need kobo. They don't need anything from the government to give them as free. No, give the Nigerian an enabling environment. And that is all Nigerians ask for. They can deploy, I'm telling you, they can support 3 million security men. If you open the door, hey, because of Nigeria's creativity, there are projects you can't believe that could happen. That would, I believe, for instance, and I said so to the governor of Kaduna State when I was speaking with him. I said every state capital in Nigeria can be exactly like Dubai.
That's right.
Every state. I speak as an architect, and as an architect, I know it's possible. But you see, when you create an enabling environment, not only Nigerians, foreigners bring their money. What do you think happened in Dubai? You think it's all their money? They brought the best of people, people that were specialists in energy production, came and set up an infrastructure. They set up those places and made their money from what their products generated. See, I'm involved in a project that will involve building a dam. That dam alone can power the whole of FCT from one project. When I was speaking at the Institute of Architects one time, some people walked out. They said, I'm a dreamer. I said, no. I've been to Rwanda. One of our hosts in Rwanda in 2009 has a dam that supplies half of Kigali.
Oh my.
So you see, when I look at this, how many people in Nigeria can build dams? All these things we are talking about power. Oh my goodness, we can build dams. See, Texas has what? 70 dams. America, just Texas has 70 dams. America has 700 dams. We have Kainji Dam, and we can't sleep. Can you imagine if Nigeria, and you know what, Nigeria has 2/3 the population of the US in the size of Texas. Can you imagine if Nigeria had 100 functioning dams?
Or even 70, just like...
Oh, okay, let's just have 70 like Texas.
What Texas has.
Can you see the difference of power
and the effect
of production in Nigeria? The reason why our people can produce cheaper than China and India is because, number one, there is no power. Number two, we have the craziest regimen. Nowhere in the world do you charge people 24% interest for a bank loan. In India, it's 1%. In China, it's 1%. That is why they can produce their goods, ship them to China, and it will still be cheaper than Nigeria. We have some issues that we have not. I don't even want to go into those things. But like I said, let's take just security. And you are right. If government fails, people need to protect themselves, and that can come from just cooperations among neighbors to pull together their security capacities and protect themselves. Nigerians can unite under this one single word. Let's make our country secure. Let me tell you something. APC, PDP, NLC, you just name them. Everyone believes that we should be secure. Christian, Muslim, they all believe we should be secure. Hausa, Yoruba, Baju.
So that's a unifying.
Yes, it's a unifying thing. Umbrella. Just the way that football unifies all of us. Yeah. Just take security and say, let us secure the country. Every party, every ethnic group today, every party, every ethnic group, every religion will subscribe to it. That's the place to start. And we can unite and say, we want to change the country, we will make it secure. Even if you don't say, I'm going to provide you with fertilizer or anything, just talk.
Let's do with security.
Let's do security. And you're going to see Nigeria change. That word is sufficient for all Nigerians to rally around and change the status quo.
Thank you, Pastor Ogbaja. I mean, tonight has really been loaded. We could go on and on and on and on, but to be honest with you, so much has been spoken tonight, and I'm sure that you can feel the pulse of this conversation in itself. I'm going to be reading a couple of comments that have been put up by our viewers. Monisola Adetiba, change starts with taking responsibility, and that's come out of this conversation. We also have Shola Adebayo, who fixed it is more important than who caused it. Powerful, powerful, powerful statements that have been thrown out here today. Omoyele, responsibility issues are not prayer issues. I mean, I think the church needs to hear that, and we need to rise up and take responsibility for our country. We've prayed, and I know people are going to keep praying, but this is a time for us right now to step up and to begin to accept responsibility for the transformation of our country. Fred Williams has this to say. He says, no doubt, we need to go back to our foundations and raise a new breed of leaders with an entirely different mindset. Those who cannot be bought or intimidated, those who are so resourceful, I will not back away from the cause of selfless nation building. Thank you so much, Fred Williams. What an amazing time. Pastor Ogbaja, we look forward to having you back again. I mean, we could go on and on. There's so much to talk about, but thank you for bringing light to us today and bringing knowledge and understanding and wisdom. And if there's anything I'm leaving here with, it is strategy. Strategy, we need to be strategic, young people. And I just don't think this is about young people. Nigerians need to be strategic in order to create a pathway forward for us. We've heard today, security is a nagging issue. And we need to begin to think of how we can all unite under the umbrella of this nagging issue and begin to take responsibility for our nation and deliver our nation out of darkness into light. Thank you so much for coming on the set and on this program today. God bless you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, our viewers, for joining us. And for those who are constantly with us, we want to thank you and appreciate you. The broadcast is still going to be on the different platforms that we have aired it on, so you can still share it with your friends and let them hear what has been said here today. We're going to be ending tonight with the national anthem. And, you know, we still must know that this is our country and we have a responsibility to making this country work. This is the only country we have on the planet. Even if you leave Nigeria to go somewhere else, you're still Nigerian. This is home. And we must be proud of our own country. So we're going to leave with the national anthem today. And God bless you. We look forward to seeing you on the next conversation. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.